The crystal flute fell. Not accident. Not age. Recognition. The man in my daughter's apartment lifted his glass and smiled, the same smile that once dismantled my life. 7 years ago, he was David Cole. He called me beautiful in grief, promised me safety, drained my accounts, and vanished. Now he is Daniel Cross, my daughter's fiancé. The glass hit marble and shattered, sharp as memory. Guests laughed, unaware. Lily leaned into him, glowing. And I stood frozen, blood turned to ice, watching the monster who destroyed me prepare to marry my daughter. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I am Helen Brooks, 64 years old, retired school counselor. I thought I knew trouble when I saw it. I was wrong. Trouble learns. Trouble evolves. Trouble wears better suits now. The party was bright. Boston sunlight poured through tall windows. Lily's friends held champagne. They laughed at nothing important. They looked young and safe. I stood by the bookshelf. The flute lay on the carpet. Nobody noticed. He walked toward me, confident, easy, a man who knows he belongs. He extended his hand. I took it. Warm palm, firm grip, practiced. He introduced himself as Daniel Cross, investment strategist, new to Boston, in love with my daughter. I smiled. I nodded. I did not let go of his hand too quickly. Inside my chest, something turned to stone. 7 years ago, a different city, a different name, same man. I remember the voice first. Low and steady, the kind that makes you lean in. He told me grief made me beautiful. He said my late husband would want me to live again. I believed him. I was 57, newly widowed, lonely in a house too quiet. He filled the silence with attention. Dinners, flowers, plans for a future I thought I deserved. 6 months. That is how long it took. 6 months for him to access my accounts. 6 months for him to learn where I kept everything. 6 months for him to vanish. He took $200,000. My widow's cushion, my safety net, my stupid, trusting heart. The police said I was not the first. They said men like him move cities like chess pieces. They said I should have known better. Maybe I should have, but I know now. I know his eyes. I know his posture. I know the way he gathers a room around him like gravity. And he is here, in my daughter's home, holding her hand, calling himself Daniel. Lily glowed. She introduced him to everyone. She touched his arm when she spoke. She looked at him the way I once looked at someone who lied for a living. My stomach turned. My throat closed. I forced my face to stay calm. I am good at calm. 30 years of counseling teenagers taught me that. Keep your voice level. Keep your expression neutral. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves. So I smiled. I asked polite questions. I let him perform. He said he worked in finance, investments and portfolio management. He said he met Lily at a fundraiser. He said he knew right away she was special. Special. That word in his mouth tasted like metal. He asked about my retirement. He asked if I was happy. He asked if I missed my work. He touched my shoulder when he spoke. Gentle, reassuring, as if we were already family. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab Lily and run. I wanted to rip the mask off his face in front of everyone. But I did not. Because I have been here before. Because I know how this works. Because accusation without proof sounds like jealousy. Sounds like a bitter old woman who cannot let her daughter be happy. So I played my part. I played the grateful mother. The woman relieved her daughter found someone stable. Someone kind. Someone who wanted to take care of her. I left the party early. I said I was tired. Lily walked me to the door. She hugged me tight. She whispered that she was so happy I liked him. I hugged her back. I told her I loved her. I did not tell her the truth. Not yet. That night I sat at my kitchen table. The house was dark. The silence pressed against my ears. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. I typed his name, Daniel Cross. The results were thin. A LinkedIn profile, a business website, a few mentions in local articles. Everything started in 2020. Nothing before that. No college records. No old addresses. No digital footprints from a life lived before. I know what that means. I learned it the hard way. When someone appears from nowhere, they are hiding somewhere. I searched for 2 hours. I made notes. I cross-referenced dates and cities. I looked for patterns in the gaps. Then I searched for myself. For the man who took my money. For the name he used back then. David Cole. Different first name. Different last name. Same initials. D. C. Predators have habits. They cannot help it. They repeat what works. They polish their lies until they shine. I found an old photo. A newspaper article about a charity event. David Cole standing with donors. Smiling. Confident. Holding a glass of wine. I zoomed in on his face. I studied the eyes. The jawline. The way he stood. My hands shook. My breath came short and fast. Same man. Older now. Heavier maybe. But the same. I sat back in my chair. The laptop screen dimmed. The house settled around me with small creaking sounds. Lily has a trust fund. Her father set it up before he died. It vests when she turns 35. Full control. $2.3 million. 18 months from now. 18 months is enough time to plan a wedding. Enough time to gain legal access. Enough time to position yourself as the grieving widower if something unfortunate happens. I have seen this pattern before. Not just with me. I read the articles after he left. Other women. Other cities. Engagements that ended in emptied accounts. One ended in a fall-down basement stairs. Ruled accidental. Husband inherited everything. My stomach turned to ice. He is not here for love. He is here for money. And my daughter is the target. I closed the laptop. I sat in the dark. I listened to my own breathing. I am 64 years old. I am alone. I have no husband to call. No badge to flash. No authority to wield. But I have experience. I have pattern recognition. I have 30 years of watching people lie to themselves and others. And I have rage. Cold. Focused. Patient. He thinks I am harmless. An old woman. Easy to charm. Easy to dismiss. He is wrong. I will not let him do this. Not to Lily. Not to anyone else. I will find proof. I will build a case. I will do it carefully. Quietly. Without tipping my hand. Because if I confront him now, he will run. He will disappear. He will find another city. Another daughter. Another trust fund. No. I will let him think he is winning. I will smile at Sunday dinners. I will ask him harmless questions. I will play the doting mother. And while I do, I will dig. I will search. I will connect the dots between Daniel Cross and David Cole and whoever else he has been. I will not let grief make me stupid twice. The house was cold. I pulled a blanket around my shoulders. I did not turn on any lights. Outside, the city hummed. Cars passed. Somewhere a dog barked. Life continued as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The crystal flute was still on Lily's floor. Cracked. Broken. A small casualty of recognition. I would glue it back together later. Keep it as a reminder that broken things can still be useful. That cracks let the light through. That sometimes the only way to fix something is to see it clearly first. I sat in the dark. I made my plans. I prepared for war. An old woman with a laptop and a memory. Not much of an army. But it would have to be enough. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I found Nora Diaz through a lawyer I once knew. The kind of lawyer who helps women disappear. Who changes names. Who understands that sometimes the system fails first. Nora met me at a diner. 10 in the morning. Weekday quiet. She ordered coffee. Black. No sugar. She looked tired in a way that meant competent. I slid a folder across the table. Photos. Timelines. Names. Everything I had found in 2 weeks of searching. She opened it. She read without expression. She took notes on a yellow pad. Her handwriting was small and precise. When she finished, she looked up. She asked if I was sure. If I was ready for what I might find. I told her I already knew. I just needed proof. She nodded. She said she would call me in a week. Maybe less. It took 5 days. She came to my house. Late afternoon. The light slanted gold through my kitchen windows. She carried a briefcase. Leather. Worn at the corners. She set it on my table. She opened it. She pulled out files. 3 inches thick. The smell of toner and old paper filled my kitchen. The smell of evidence. She laid them out in rows. City names across the top. Phoenix. Nashville. Denver. Portland. Boston. Each city had a name. Dean Cole. Mason Kerr. Dylan Rowe. Daniel Cross. Same pattern. Same method. Same man. Nora explained it slowly. She let me absorb each piece. She knew I needed to see it all to believe it. Phoenix came first. A woman named Rita Sandoval. 58. Widowed. Met him at a grief support group. He called himself Dean Cole back then. He courted her for 4 months. He moved in. He gained access to her accounts. Then she fell downstairs. Broke her neck. Died instantly. He inherited everything. 1.7 million. Then he vanished. The police investigated. Found nothing concrete. Ruled it accidental. Case closed. But Rita had a sister. A younger sister who did not believe. Who hired investigators. Who found other women. Other cities. Other accidents. Nashville was next. A woman named Carol Jensen. 62. Mason Kerr that time. Similar timeline. Similar method. She did not die. She just woke up one day to empty accounts. But Carol had a niece. A niece who remembered her aunt's boyfriend. Who remembered his face. Who saw the news from Phoenix. Who made connections. Denver. Portland. The pattern repeated. The names changed. The faces in the photos did not. Nora pointed to dates. To gaps between cities. To the careful spacing of his work. He moved every 2 years. Sometimes 3. He never stayed long enough to build a life. Just long enough to destroy one. And the women were connected. Not to him. To each other. Rita's sister knew Carol's niece. Carol's niece knew a woman in Denver. Denver connected to Portland. Portland connected to others. He was not random. He was methodical. He chose women whose families were connected. Who would share stories. Who would warn each other. But the warnings came too late. Always too late. Nora said it looked like revenge. Like someone building a map of pain. Targeting families. making sure they all knew, making sure they all felt it. I stared at the files. My hands were cold. The kitchen felt smaller. I asked about evidence, about proof that would stand in court, about anything that could stop him before Lily signed papers, before the trust vested, before the stairs became a possibility. Nora shook her head. The files showed pattern. They showed probability. They did not show proof. Not the kind that arrests someone. Not the kind that saves someone. I felt something break inside. Quiet, like ice cracking on a lake. Nora put her hand on mine. She said pattern was still information. She said we could build on it. She said I was not powerless. But I felt powerless. She left the files. She said to study them, to memorize them, to use them carefully. I sat alone at my kitchen table. I read until the light died. I read until my eyes burned. I read until I knew every name, every city, every detail. Then I planned. Sunday dinner was at Lily's place. Daniel insisted on cooking. He said he loved to cook. He said it relaxed him. I arrived early. I brought wine. I smiled. The apartment smelled like garlic and herbs. Something Italian. Tomatoes simmering. Bread warming. He wore an apron. He looked domestic, comfortable, like a man planning to stay. Lily was happy. She moved around the kitchen with light steps. She laughed at his jokes. She touched his shoulder when she passed. I watched them. I memorized them. I prepared myself. We ate at the table. Candles burning. Music low. Everything perfect. Everything staged. He talked about his work. About portfolio management. About helping people plan for the future. He used words like security. Like responsibility. Like long-term thinking. I asked questions. Gentle ones. Curious ones. The kind a future mother-in-law asks. He answered smoothly. He had stories ready. Details that sounded real. Numbers that added up. But the timeline was thin. Everything recent. Everything since 2020. Nothing before that. I asked about his family. He said they were gone. Parents dead. No siblings. Just him now. Convenient. Lily's phone rang. Work. She apologized. She stepped into the bedroom. The door closed. The room changed. The air cooled. The performance paused. Daniel looked at me. Really looked. Like he was measuring something. Calculating odds. He mentioned Lily's trust fund. Called it her upcoming liquidity event. Said it required careful planning. Responsible management. Professional guidance. I stirred my wine. I kept my face empty. I asked what kind of planning. He leaned back. He explained joint accounts. Shared portfolios. Estate planning. How married couples should consolidate. Should plan together. Should protect each other. He used the word protect 3 times. Each time it sounded more like a cage. I nodded. I asked simple questions. I played the role of confused older woman. Someone who does not understand finance. Someone who trusts her daughter's choices. He relaxed. He expanded. He talked about Boston winters. About West Coast startups he consulted for. About patience being a virtue in business and love. He was good. Very good. The lies were smooth. The confidence was real. But I saw the calculation. The way he watched me. The way he measured my reactions. He was testing me. Seeing if I was a threat. Seeing if I would be a problem. I smiled. I thanked him for taking care of my daughter. I said I was glad she found someone stable. The word stable hung in the air. We both heard it differently. Lily came back. The warmth returned. The performance resumed. We finished dinner with dessert and coffee. I left at 9. I hugged Lily goodbye. I shook Daniel's hand. I told them dinner was lovely. I drove home slowly. My hands shook on the wheel. My chest felt tight. He knew about the trust. He knew the exact amount. He knew when it would vest. He was already positioning himself. Already laying groundwork. Already building access. 18 months. Maybe less if he pushed the wedding. If he convinced Lily to move faster. To plan smaller. To elope. I parked in my driveway. I sat in the dark car. I breathed slowly. Nora was right. Pattern was information. But information was not enough. I needed him to confess. To reveal himself. To make a mistake that could not be explained away. And I needed Lily to see it. To hear it. To believe it. Because a mother's warning sounds like jealousy. Sounds like control. Sounds like an old woman who cannot let go. But evidence speaks for itself. Truth does not need translation. I would have to be smarter. Faster. More careful than him. I would have to make him think he had already won. That I was harmless. That I was convinced. That I was no threat. And then I would have to catch him. Record him. Preserve him in his own words. The car grew cold. My breath fogged the windows. Outside, the street was empty. I thought about Rita. About Carol. About all the women in Nora's files. About the families left behind with questions and rage. I thought about Lily. About her trust. About basement stairs and accidents that were not accidents. No, not this time. Not my daughter. Not while I still breathed. I got out of the car. I walked to my door. I unlocked it. I stepped inside. The house was dark and quiet. But I was not afraid of the dark anymore. I had lived in it for 7 years. Ever since David Cole. Ever since I learned that monsters wear good suits. Now I would use that darkness. Would let it teach me. Would become something he did not expect. An old woman. A retired counselor. A harmless mother. With files. With evidence. With rage that had learned patience. I turned on one lamp. I opened Nora's files. I began to memorize. Every name. Every city. Every connection. Every mistake he ever made. Because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone leaves traces. Everyone has a pattern that can be broken. I just had to find his. And when I did, I would break it. Break him. Before he broke my daughter. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. The isolation started small. So small I almost missed it. Lily canceled our movie night. She said she was tired. She said work was stressful. She said maybe next week. Next week never came. She called less. Once a week became once every 2 weeks. Then silence with texts instead. Short ones. Busy. Sorry. Talk soon. I felt the distance growing. Measured in unanswered calls. In excuses that sounded rehearsed. Daniel was always in the background of her texts. His suggestions. His schedule. His opinions about what she needed. What she needed, apparently, was less of me. I drove by her building one Tuesday. I saw them leaving together. His hand on her back. Guiding. Possessive. Protective. She looked smaller next to him. Dimmer somehow. I did not stop. I did not wave. I kept driving. That night she called. Her voice was tight. Careful. Like she was reading from a script. She said I seemed stressed lately. She said maybe I was projecting my own fears onto her relationship. She said Daniel thought maybe I needed space. Time to adjust. Time to accept. Daniel thought. Those 2 words in her mouth tasted like poison. I told her I understood. I told her I loved her. I told her I just wanted her to be happy. I hung up. I sat on my couch. I stared at nothing. This was the pattern. Nora's files had shown it clearly. First came isolation. Gentle, gradual, wrapped in concern. Cut the daughter from the mother. The fiancé from her friends. The target from anyone who might notice. Anyone who might warn. Anyone who might interfere. Then came the paperwork. The joint accounts. The legal access. The consolidation of assets in the name of love. Then came the accident. I had maybe 6 months. Maybe less. The next Sunday I did not call. I waited for Lily to reach out. She did not. 3 days passed. 4, 5. On the 6th day she texted. Asked if I was okay. Said she missed me. I texted back. Said I was fine. Said I was giving her space. Said I understood she was building a new life. She called immediately. Her voice cracked. She asked why I was being distant. Why I was pulling away. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her she had it backwards. That I was not the one pulling. That I was not the one erasing. That I was not the one rewriting her world. But I did not. Because that is what he wanted. He wanted me to push. To accuse. To sound desperate and controlling. So I stayed calm. I said I was just tired. Just adjusting. Just trying to respect her boundaries. She cried. She said she loved me. She said she wanted me at the wedding. Then she paused. She said maybe it was better if I did not come. That the wedding would be stressful. That she did not want me to feel uncomfortable. That Daniel's family would be there and it might be awkward. Daniel's family. The family he said he did not have. My breath stopped. My vision blurred. My hands went numb. She was uninviting me. Her own mother. From her wedding. I heard his voice in the background. Distant. Soothing. Supportive. I told her I understood. I told her I wanted what was best. I told her I loved her more than anything. I hung up. I did not cry. I was past crying. I called Nora. She answered on the first ring. I told her what happened. I told her we were out of time. I told her I needed a plan that worked. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked if I was willing to lose the battle to win the war. I said yes. I said anything. I said everything. She told me to surrender. To fall apart. To become what he expected. A defeated old woman. A threat neutralized. A voice dismissed. She said predators get sloppy when they think they have won. They confess to the people they have defeated. They celebrate. They explain. They gloat. She said we would wire me. Set up a meeting. Let him think I was broken. Let him think I was accepting defeat. Let him talk. Because talking was evidence. Talking was confession. Talking was the thing that sent men to prison. I agreed. I planned my collapse. I stopped calling Lily. I stopped texting. I went silent. 4 days later Lily called again. Worried. Scared. Apologetic. I told her I had fallen. Nothing serious. Just a slip in the shower. Bruised ribs. The doctor said rest. My friend Margaret was helping. I would be fine. I just needed time. Lily wanted to come over. I said no. Said I did not want her to see me like this. Said I was embarrassed. Said Margaret was taking good care of me. She believed me. Because daughters want to believe their mothers are resilient. Are fine. Are not falling apart. I texted her updates. Short ones. Margaret is here. Feeling better. Don't worry. Focus on your wedding. Then I sent a message to Daniel. Separate. Private. Not through Lily. I told him I wanted to apologize. To make peace. To accept reality. I told him I had been wrong. I told him I saw now that he was good for Lily. That I had been scared of losing her. That I understood now. That I wanted to support them both. I told him Margaret's address. Said I was staying there while I recovered. Said I would love to talk. To clear the air. To start over. He responded within an hour. Said he would love that. Said he respected my honesty. Said family was important. Said he would bring soup. Of course he would bring soup. Nora set up the wires. Tiny. Invisible. One in my shirt. One in the lamp. One in the smoke detector. Margaret's apartment was small. 1 bedroom. Clean. The furniture smelled like lavender and old books. Nora briefed me. She said to stay calm. To let him talk. To ask gentle questions. To sound defeated but curious. To let him feel superior. To let him explain his victory. She said not to accuse. Not to confront. Not to threaten. Just listen. Just absorb. Just let the wire catch everything. I practiced in the mirror. Tired eyes. Slumped shoulders. The posture of resignation. The face of someone who had given up. I was good at it. 7 years of practice after David Cole. After being humiliated. After learning that fighting only makes you look bitter. Daniel arrived at noon. He knocked softly. Respectful. Concerned. I opened the door in a bathrobe. Hair unwashed. Face pale. The costume of defeat. He carried a container of soup. Chicken noodle. Homemade. Still warm. He asked how I was feeling. I said better. Healing. Embarrassed. He said everyone falls. That it was nothing to be ashamed of. That he was glad I reached out. We sat at Margaret's small table. He ladled soup into bowls. He moved with easy confidence. A man comfortable in any kitchen. I thanked him. I apologized. I said I had been scared. That Lily was all I had. That losing her felt like losing everything. He nodded. He said he understood. He said he would never take Lily away from me. He said family was everything to him. Family. That word again. From a man with no family. I asked about the wedding. About their plans. About their future. He talked. He described a small ceremony. Just close friends. He said Lily wanted intimate. Wanted meaningful. Wanted to start their marriage quietly. He said afterward they would travel. Europe maybe. A long honeymoon. Time away from stress. From pressure. From people who did not understand. From me. He meant from me. I stirred my soup. I did not eat it. I asked about practical things. About where they would live. About finances. About planning. His eyes brightened. He loved this topic. He talked about consolidation. About joint accounts. About combining resources. About how Lily's trust would vest soon. About how they needed professional management. Legal protection. Proper planning. He said marriage was a partnership. That money should be shared. That secrets were toxic. That everything should be transparent between spouses. He used words like our assets. Our portfolio. Our future. He had not married her yet. But he already spoke like he owned her. Owned everything. I nodded. I said it sounded smart. Responsible. Safe. He smiled. He reached across the table. He patted my hand. He said he was glad I understood finally. That he knew I was a reasonable woman. That he knew we could be family. Then he said something that made my blood freeze. He said if anything happened to me, he wanted me to know Lily would be taken care of. Protected. Supported. That he would guide her through grief. That he would make sure she did not make bad decisions. That he would manage everything for her. If anything happened to me. The words sat on the table between us. Innocent, caring, lethal. I looked at him. Really looked. His face was kind. His eyes were warm. His voice was gentle. And underneath it all was a promise. A threat wrapped in comfort. I smiled. I thanked him. I said that was good to know. That it gave me peace. He squeezed my hand. He said he had to go. Had a meeting. But he was glad we talked. Glad we understood each other now. He stood. He carried his bowl to the sink. He washed it. He dried his hands. He folded the towel neatly. Then he left. The door clicked shut. The apartment was silent. I sat without moving. My heart hammered. My hands shook. My breath came in short gasps. Nora emerged from the bedroom. She had been listening, recording, witnessing. She sat across from me. She asked if I was okay. I was not okay. I was terrified. I was furious. I was alive with electric rage. But I nodded. I asked if we had enough. If the recording was clear. If his words were evidence. She shook her head. She said implied threat was not the same as explicit threat. She said talking about managing Lily's trust was not illegal. She said planning for hypothetical scenarios was not confession. She said we had information. We had concerning statements. We had his voice on tape saying things that sounded wrong. But we did not have proof. Not yet. Not enough. I stared at her. I felt something crack inside. Something that had been holding me together. She said we needed more. We needed him to explain his method. His history. His pattern. We needed him to admit something concrete. Something that could not be explained away. She said we needed to push harder. To make him feel safer. To make him think I was completely neutralized. Completely defeated. Completely harmless. Then he would talk. Then he would boast. Then he would make the mistake that men like him always make. Thinking they had already won. I nodded. I understood. I was tired. Bone tired. Soul tired. But I was not done. Not while Lily still breathed. Not while she still trusted him. Nora left. I sat alone in Margaret's apartment. The soup sat cold on the table. The silence pressed against my ears. I thought about Rita, about Carol, about all the women who did not have a second chance. I thought about Lily, about her trust, about her future, about the stares that waited for women who knew too much. I would give him one more chance to confess. One more meeting, one more wire, one more performance. And if he did not take it, I would find another way. I would burn my own life down if I had to. Would sacrifice everything. Would become whatever was necessary. Because some things are worth losing everything for. And my daughter was one of them. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Agent Mark Huang arrived the next morning. Early. Before the sun finished rising. Before the coffee finished brewing. Nora brought him. She said he specialized in financial crimes. In predators who wore suits. In men who killed with paperwork and stares. He looked young, maybe 40, tired eyes behind wire glasses. He carried a worn leather bag. The kind that has seen too many cases. We sat at my kitchen table. The recordings played through a small speaker. Daniel's voice filled my kitchen. Smooth, confident, careful. I watched Agent Huang's face. He took notes. He rewound sections. He listened 3 times to the part about managing Lily's grief. When the recording ended, he sat back. He removed his glasses. He rubbed his eyes. Then he said what I already knew. What I did not want to hear. The recording was concerning. It showed intent. It suggested planning. It revealed character. But it was not evidence. Not legally. Not yet. Talking about hypothetical scenarios was not a crime. Discussing financial planning was not conspiracy. Mentioning someone's death in context of care was not threat. Not explicit threat. Not provable threat. Not prosecutable threat. My hands went cold. My chest tightened. My voice came out flat. I asked what would be enough. What he needed. What would make this real? Agent Huang put his glasses back on. He leaned forward. He spoke slowly, like he was explaining to someone fragile. Someone breakable. He said they needed admission. Direct statement of past crimes. Confession of method. Acknowledgement of intent toward Lily specifically. Or they needed action. Concrete steps toward harm. Document fraud. Attempted poisoning. Physical assault. He said pattern showed probability. But courts required proof. Juries needed certainty. Prosecutors needed evidence that could not be explained away. I stared at him. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. He was telling me to wait. To let Daniel get closer. To let him take more steps. To let him get near enough to hurt someone. To use my daughter as bait. Nora touched my hand. She said that was not what he meant. That there were other ways. Controlled ways. Safe ways. Agent Huang nodded. He said they could stage a confrontation. In Daniel's apartment. While Lily was away. With surveillance. With backup. With witnesses. He said I could confront him with what I knew. Push him. Challenge him. Make him defend himself. Make him explain. Make him react. He said men like Daniel had egos. Had pride. Had a need to be right. To be clever. To be understood. When cornered, they often talked. They explained their genius. They justified their actions. They confessed without realizing they were confessing. He said if Daniel thought he was safe, he might boast. Might reveal details. Might say enough to become evidence. I asked what happened if he did not talk. If he stayed silent. If he called a lawyer. If he simply walked away. Agent Huang was quiet for a moment. Then he said they would keep investigating. Keep watching. Keep waiting for him to make a mistake. But that took time. Months. Maybe years. And Lily's trust vested in 18 months. The unspoken truth sat on the table between us. Heavy. Undeniable. If we waited, Lily might die waiting. I asked when. When could we do this? When could we end it? Agent Huang checked his phone. He made calls. He spoke in low tones to people I could not hear. Then he turned back to me. He said 2 weeks. When Lily attended a legal conference in New York. 3 days away. Daniel would be alone. Vulnerable. Available. He said I would need to be convincing. Emotional but controlled. Angry but not hysterical. Certain enough to rattle him. Gentle enough to keep him talking. He said I would be wired. They would be listening. Watching. Ready to intervene if things went wrong. If things went wrong. Those words echoed in my head. Nora asked if I was sure. If I was ready. If I understood the risks. I was not sure. I was not ready. But I understood. I understood that doing nothing was also a risk. That waiting was gambling with my daughter's life. That sometimes you have to walk into fire to put it out. I said yes. I said I would do it. I said I would do whatever it took. Agent Huang gave me his card. He said to call if anything changed. If Daniel made any moves. If Lily seemed in danger. He said they would monitor Daniel's communications. His finances. His movements. They would be ready when the time came. Then he left. Nora stayed. She made more coffee. She sat across from me. She asked how I was feeling. I did not know how to answer. I felt hollow, determined, terrified, angry. I felt like a mother preparing to fight a wolf with her bare hands. She said I did not have to do this. That there were other ways. Slower ways. Safer ways. But we both knew the truth. Slow meant risk. Safe meant waiting. And waiting meant letting him get closer to Lily. I told her I was tired of being afraid. Tired of being careful. Tired of watching him circle my daughter like she was prey. I told her I wanted it done. Wanted him exposed. Wanted him in handcuffs before he hurt anyone else. She nodded. She understood. She had seen this before. Women who got tired of running. Who decided to stand. Who chose to fight even when the odds looked bad. She said she would help me prepare. Would rehearse with me. Would teach me how to push without breaking. How to provoke without threatening. How to make him talk. The next 2 weeks crawled. Each day felt like a month. Each hour like a week. I practiced in front of mirrors. I memorized facts. I rehearsed lines. I learned to breathe through rage without letting it show. Nora played Daniel. She was good at it. Too good. She knew how men like him talked. How they justified. How they twisted truth into shapes that fit their narrative. We practiced until my voice stayed steady. Until my hands stopped shaking. Until I could say his names without flinching. David Cole. Dean Cole. Mason Kerr. Dylan Rowe. Daniel Cross. 5 names. 1 monster. Too many victims. Lily called twice during those 2 weeks. She sounded distant, distracted, happy in a way that made my chest ache. She talked about the wedding. About honeymoon plans. About the future she thought she was building. I listened. I said the right things. I did not tell her the truth. Not yet. Not until it was safe. Not until I had proof she could not deny. The night before the confrontation I could not sleep. I lay in bed and watched shadows move across my ceiling. I listened to my house settle. I counted my heartbeats. I thought about Rita Sandoval. About her broken neck at the bottom of stairs. About her sister who knew the truth but could not prove it. I thought about Carol Jensen. About her empty accounts. About her niece who made connections too late. I thought about all the women in Nora's files. All the families. All the warnings that came after the damage was done. I thought about Lily. About her trust fund. About her future. About the man who planned to steal both. No more. Tomorrow I would face him. Tomorrow I would push him. Tomorrow I would make him reveal himself. Or I would fail. And if I failed, we would find another way. Because giving up was not an option. Surrender was not possible. Not while my daughter still breathed. I got out of bed. I made tea. I sat in my dark kitchen and waited for dawn. The hours passed. The sky lightened. The world woke up around me. I showered. I dressed in clothes that looked tired. Defeated. I did my hair but left it slightly messy. I wore no makeup. I wanted to look like a woman who had given up fighting. I wanted to look harmless. Broken. No longer a threat. It was the most dangerous disguise I had ever worn. Nora arrived at 9. She had the wires. Tiny microphones. Nearly invisible. One taped to my chest beneath my shirt. One hidden in my watch. One in the button of my coat. Agent Huang and his team were already in position. In a van 3 blocks away. In the apartment next to Daniel's. In the coffee shop across the street. Watching. Listening. Ready. Nora drove me to Daniel's building. 15 minutes across Boston. The city looked normal. People walked dogs. Cars stopped at lights. Life continued. Nobody knew what I was about to do. Nobody knew that in 20 minutes I would accuse a man of murder in his own apartment while federal agents listened through walls. We parked 2 blocks away. Nora checked the wires. She tested the signal. She made sure everything worked. Then she looked at me. She asked if I was ready. I was not ready, but I was going anyway. She squeezed my hand. She said I was brave. I said I was terrified. She said brave people are always terrified. That courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it. I got out of the car. The morning air was cold. Sharp. It hurt to breathe. I walked toward Daniel's building. Each step felt heavy, final, like walking toward a cliff edge. But I kept walking, one foot in front of the other. Toward the truth, toward the confrontation, toward whatever came next. Because some fights cannot be avoided. Some truths must be spoken. Some monsters must be named. Even when your voice shakes. Even when your hands tremble. Even when every instinct screams to run. I reached his building. I pressed the button. I waited. His voice came through the intercom. Warm, welcoming, unsuspecting. He buzzed me in. The door clicked open. I stepped inside. The lobby was quiet, clean, expensive, the kind of place that looked safe. I took the elevator to the 4th floor. The doors opened. I stepped into the hallway. His apartment was at the end. Door closed. Waiting. I walked toward it. My heart hammered. My breath came short. My hands were ice. I knocked. 3 times. Steady. Certain. The door opened. Daniel stood there, smiling, relaxed. A man with nothing to hide. He invited me in. He offered coffee. He asked what brought me by. I stepped inside. Into his carefully constructed life. Into his perfect disguise. Into the trap I had built for both of us. The door closed behind me. The lock clicked. The recording started. And I began to speak the truth he thought I would never know. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. His apartment was a showroom. Everything matched. Everything coordinated. Nothing personal. Nothing real. White walls. Gray furniture. Glass tables that reflected light but revealed nothing. The space of someone who planned to leave. Who never intended to stay. He gestured to the couch. I remained standing. I needed the height. Needed the advantage. Needed to see his face clearly when I spoke. He asked again about coffee. About tea. About making me comfortable. I told him I was not here for comfort. I was here for truth. His smile flickered. Just for a moment. Just long enough. He asked what I meant. His voice stayed smooth, but something shifted behind his eyes. Calculation replacing warmth. The mask adjusting. I told him I knew who he was. What he was. What he had done. I said his name. David Cole. Then the others. Dean Cole. Mason Kerr. Dylan Rowe. Daniel Cross. 5 names. 1 man. 1 monster standing in front of me. His face went still. Completely still. Like a photograph. Like something frozen. Then he smiled. Different this time. Colder. More honest. He asked me to prove it. His voice was quiet. Almost curious. Like he was interested in how much I had learned. I told him about Phoenix. About Rita Sandoval. About her broken neck. About the insurance money he inherited before he vanished. I told him about Nashville. About Carol Jensen. About her empty accounts. About her niece who remembered his face. I told him about Denver. About Portland. About the pattern that followed him like a shadow he could not escape. His expression did not change. He listened like I was reading him a story. Something interesting but distant. Something that happened to other people. When I finished, he walked to the window. He looked out at Boston. At the city he was preparing to bleed and leave. Then he turned back to me. He asked how I figured it out. Not a denial. Not an explanation. Just curiosity. Professional interest. I told him about the eyes. About recognition. About the way predators cannot help being what they are. He nodded, like I had passed some test. Like I had earned his respect. He said I was smarter than the others. More observant. More persistent. The others. He said it so casually. Like he was discussing former colleagues. Former clients. Not victims. Not women whose lives he destroyed. I asked about Lily. About her trust. About his plans. He tilted his head. He studied me like I was a puzzle. Something to solve. Something to understand before discarding. He asked why I thought he would tell me anything. I said because he wanted to. Because men like him always want to. Because the only thing better than winning is explaining how you won. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was wrong in the perfect apartment. Too human. Too real. He said I was right. That it was exhausting being clever with people who could not appreciate it. That the art was wasted on those who did not understand. The art. He called it art. Like theft was composition. Like murder was technique. He walked to a drawer. He opened it. I tensed. My hand moved toward my phone. Toward the panic button Agent Huang had given me. But he only pulled out a folder. Blue. Neat. Organized. He set it on the glass table between us. He told me to look. I did not move. I asked what it was. He said it was his work. His planning. His masterpiece. Inside were documents. Financial papers. Account authorizations. Estate planning forms. Power of attorney agreements. All with Lily's signature. All legally binding. All dated within the last 2 months. My blood turned to ice water. My vision blurred at the edges. My hands clenched into fists. I asked how, when, why she would sign these. He said she trusted him. That he explained it was standard. That married couples do this. That it protected them both. He said she signed them at his office. Over coffee. While discussing their future. While planning their life together. He said she had no idea what she was authorizing. What access she was granting. What control she was surrendering. He said the trust would vest in 14 months now. Not 18. They had moved the timeline. Accelerated the process. Made everything happen faster. 14 months. Less time than I thought. Less time than we had. I asked what happened after the trust vested. After he had access. After the money was his. He looked at me. Really looked. His face was empty now. No smile. No warmth. No pretense. He said accidents happen. That stairs are dangerous. That grief makes people careless. That he would be there to comfort Lily. To guide her. To help her through the tragedy of losing her mother so suddenly. That he would manage everything for her. Make all the decisions. Protect her from the stress and confusion of grief. That eventually, after a respectful period, there might be another accident. Something unavoidable. Something tragic. That he would inherit everything. Grieve publicly. Disappear quietly. Start again somewhere new. He said it like he was describing a recipe. Steps to follow. Ingredients to combine. A process he had perfected over time. My throat closed. My chest hurt. My vision tunneled until all I could see was his face. His empty, honest, monstrous face. I asked how many. How many women? How many families? How many lives? He considered the question, like he was counting, like he was trying to remember. He said enough. That the number did not matter. That they were all the same. Lonely, trusting, wealthy enough to be worth the effort. He said Lily was special though. That she was the culmination. The biggest score. The perfect target. That her family connections made it even better. That I would die knowing I had failed. That the other families would know they had failed. That his revenge would be complete. Revenge. That word stopped me. I asked what he meant. His expression changed. Something real flickered behind the emptiness. Something that looked like rage. He said they thought they could warn people. Could spread his name. Could ruin his work. That Rita's sister. Carol's niece. The other families. They had tried to stop him. So he had made it personal. Had targeted their sisters. Their cousins. Their daughters. Had made them watch. Had made them know. Had made them feel helpless. He said I was part of that. That Lily was chosen because of what I had done. How I had complained. How I had reported him. How I had tried to warn others after he took my money. That this was punishment. For speaking. For resisting. For not disappearing quietly. My legs shook. I sat down. Not by choice. Just because they would not hold me anymore. He had been planning this for 7 years. Since he robbed me. Since I reported him. Since I tried to fight back. He had found Lily. Had researched her. Had positioned himself in her world. Had waited for the right moment. All to punish me. All to make me watch. All to finish what he started. He walked to the kitchen. He poured water into a glass. He brought it to me. Considerate. Kind. He said I looked pale. That I should drink something. That stress was bad for women my age. Women my age. Like age was a weakness. A vulnerability. A reason to give up. I took the glass. My hand shook. Water sloshed over the rim. He sat across from me. He leaned back. Relaxed. Comfortable. He said he was glad I knew now. That it had been lonely carrying this alone. That explaining felt good. Cathartic. He said when Lily asked about my death, he would comfort her. Would tell her I had been depressed. Unstable. That I had been jealous of their happiness. That my fall was tragic but not unexpected. That he had seen it coming. That he had tried to help but I would not listen. He said the narrative was already built. The groundwork already laid. Everything ready. He said I could call the police. Could tell them everything. Could try to stop him. But it would not matter. Because the documents were legal. Because his explanations were plausible. Because proof was different than suspicion. Because courts required evidence. And smart men do not leave evidence. He said I had already lost. That Lily had already lost. That the only question was whether I would live long enough to watch or if my accident came first. Then he stood. He walked to the window again. He looked out at the city. He said it was beautiful today. Clear. Bright. Full of possibility. I sat on his couch. The glass heavy in my hand. The wire cold against my chest. I thought about Rita. About Carol. About all the women who sat in rooms like this. Who heard words like these. Who knew they were going to die. I thought about Lily. About her signatures on documents she did not understand. About the trust that vested in 14 months. About the stairs waiting in her future. I thought about Agent Huang listening in the van. About the team in the next apartment. About the recording capturing every word. I thought about proof. About confession. about the difference between knowing and proving. And I realized he had just erased that difference. Had crossed the line from suspicion to evidence. Had confessed to planning murder. To past murders. To conspiracy. Had boasted himself into prison. I set down the glass. I stood. My legs were steady now. I told him he was right about one thing. That smart men do not leave evidence. But arrogant men do. Men who need to be understood. Who need to explain their genius. Who need someone to appreciate their work. His expression changed. Confusion replaced confidence. He asked what I meant. I told him he was not the only one who could plan. Who could perform. Who could set a trap. That every word he spoke was recorded. That federal agents were listening. That his confession was already evidence. Already proof. Already enough. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Then the door exploded inward. Not slowly. Not politely. Like thunder. Like judgment. Agents flooded the room. Dark suits. Badges. Guns drawn. Voices shouting commands. Daniel stood frozen. His perfect composure shattered. His mask completely gone. They told him to put his hands up. To get on his knees. To not move. To not speak. He looked at me. Really looked. Like he was seeing me for the first time. Not an old woman. Not a victim. Not someone to dismiss. Someone who had beaten him. Agent Huang stepped forward. He read Miranda rights. Loud. Clear. Precise. They cuffed Daniel's hands. Behind his back. Metal clicking. Final. They pulled him to his feet. Started leading him toward the door. He tried to speak. Tried to explain. Tried to take it back. Agent Huang told him to be quiet. That he had already said enough. That everything he needed to say could wait for his lawyer. They walked him past me. Close enough to touch. Close enough to hear his breathing. Close enough to see his fear. I did not move. Did not speak. Did not give him anything. He had taken enough already. From me. From Lily. From all the others. He would take nothing more. They led him out. Down the hallway. Into the elevator. Away. The apartment went quiet. Just me and Agent Huang. Just silence and evidence. He asked if I was okay. I said yes. Then no. Then I did not know. He said I did well. That the recording was clear. That the confession was complete. That this was enough. Enough. That word again. Finally meaning something good. Something final. I asked about Lily. About telling her. About what came next. He said there was something I needed to know. Something he had not told me before. My heart stopped. I asked what. He walked to the door. He opened it. Someone stepped inside. Lily, my daughter, standing in Daniel's apartment, looking at me with eyes I could not read. She said she knew. Had known for 2 weeks. Had been part of the plan. That the documents were fake. That her signatures were witnessed forgeries. That the trust was never in danger. That she had listened from the apartment next door. Had heard everything. Had been there the whole time. That she was sorry. Sorry for the distance. Sorry for the isolation. Sorry for making me think I was losing her. That it was part of the trap. Part of making Daniel comfortable. Part of making him think he had won. I stared at her, my daughter, my Lily, standing there alive and whole and safe. And I started to cry. Not pretty crying, ugly, gasping, the kind that hurts coming out. She held me, I held her. We stood in that terrible apartment and held each other while agents collected evidence around us. Outside, sirens wailed. Boston continued. Life went on. But something had ended. Something had been cut. Something that had been growing toward my daughter for 7 years. And it was done. Finished. Over. We had won. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Lily held me while I shook. While I gasped. While I came apart in her arms. The apartment smelled like fear and furniture polish. Like evidence and endings. Like something burned but still smoking. Agents moved around us. Taking photos. Bagging documents. Speaking in low professional voices. Doing the work that comes after violence stops but before peace begins. I could not let go of my daughter. Could not stop touching her face. Her hair. Her shoulders. Making sure she was real. Making sure she was whole. She kept saying she was sorry. Over and over. Like a prayer. Like a confession. Sorry for the distance. Sorry for the coldness. Sorry for making me think I was losing her. I told her to stop. That she had nothing to apologize for. That she had saved us both. But she cried anyway. We both did. Crying in a dead man's apartment. Crying over a trap that worked. Crying with relief that tastes like salt and feels like breaking. Agent Huang gave us space. He stood by the window. Looking out. Giving us privacy in a room full of witnesses. After a while the shaking stopped. The tears dried. The world came back into focus. Lily pulled back. She looked at me with red eyes. With my eyes. The ones I gave her when she was born. She said she needed to explain. To tell me everything. To make me understand. We sat on Daniel's couch. The same couch where he confessed. Where he explained his art. Where he signed his own arrest warrant with words. Lily told me Agent Huang came to her 3 weeks ago. After Nora filed her report. After the FBI started investigating. After they realized Daniel was targeting her. They told her everything. Showed her the files. Explained the pattern. Made her understand what she was sleeping next to. She did not believe them at first. She thought they were wrong. Thought it was impossible. Thought love could not lie that completely. But they had proof. Photos. Timelines. Other women. Other cities. Other names. They showed her Rita. Showed her Carol. Showed her the stairs. The accounts. The pattern. And she had to decide. Believe them or believe him. Trust evidence or trust feeling. She chose evidence. She chose life. She chose to help catch him. But that meant performing. Meant pulling away from me. Meant making him think the isolation was working. That I was becoming irrelevant. That she was his completely. Agent Huang said it had to look real. That Daniel was watching. That any false note would make him run. That they needed him confident. Comfortable. Willing to confess. So Lily became an actor. Played the perfect victim. The isolated daughter. The woman too in love to see clearly. She cancelled our plans. She stopped calling. She defended him. She pushed me away. And it killed her. Every time. Every cancelled dinner. Every unreturned call. Every moment of distance. But she did it anyway. Because the alternative was dying. Was letting him win. Was becoming another name in Nora's files. She said the hardest part was uninviting me from the wedding. Hearing my voice crack. Feeling me break. Knowing I thought she was choosing him over me. She almost stopped then. Almost told me everything. Almost ruined the whole plan. But Agent Huang reminded her. That her mother was strong. That I would survive the hurt. That living with pain was better than not living at all. So she let me think the worst. Let me believe I was losing her. Let me walk into Daniel's apartment thinking I was fighting alone. While she listened next door. While she heard everything. while she stood ready to burst through walls if he touched me. I asked about the documents. The signatures. The trust. She said they were forgeries. FBI forgeries. Good enough to fool Daniel. Good enough to make him think he had won. Good enough to make him boast. Her real trust was untouched. Locked. Protected. Out of reach. But Daniel did not know that. He thought he had access. Thought he had control. Thought the game was over. And that confidence made him talk. Made him explain. Made him confess to crimes that would put him away forever. I asked if she heard everything. Every word. Every detail. She nodded. She said she heard him plan my death. Plan her death. Explain his revenge. She said hearing it was like drowning. Like suffocating. Like being buried alive while still breathing. But she stayed quiet. Stayed hidden. Stayed strong. Because that was the trap. Let him talk. Let him boast. Let him hang himself with his own words. And he did. He explained everything. Admitted everything. Gave them everything they needed. I asked why she did not tell me. Why she let me suffer. Why she let me think I was fighting alone. She said Agent Huang thought it was safer. That my reactions had to be real. That Daniel would sense performance. Would see through pretense. That fear made me genuine. Made me desperate. Made me the perfect bait. I understood. But it hurt anyway. Hurt knowing she watched me break. Watched me plan. Watched me walk into that apartment thinking I might die there. She reached for my hand. She said she almost stopped it. Almost ran in. Almost ruined everything when Daniel mentioned the stairs. But Agent Huang held her back. Reminded her they needed the confession. Needed him to incriminate himself completely. Needed words that could not be taken back. So she waited. Listened. Recorded. Witnessed. And when the door burst open, when they took him down, when it was finally over, she let herself breathe again. I squeezed her hand. I told her she was brave. Braver than I ever was. She said I was wrong. That walking into this apartment alone took more courage than listening from safety. That she had backup. Had agents. Had guns and badges and people ready to protect her. But I had walked in with nothing. Just rage and determination. Just a wire and a prayer. We sat in silence for a while. Mother and daughter. Survivors. Warriors who fought the same monster from different angles. Agent Huang approached. He said we could go. That they had everything they needed. That the apartment was now a crime scene. We stood. My legs were unsteady. Lily held my elbow. Helped me balance. We walked out together. Through the doorway. Down the hallway. Into the elevator where Daniel rode in handcuffs. The lobby was empty. Clean. Normal. Like nothing had happened. Like the world had not just shifted. Outside, Boston was ordinary. Afternoon sun. Traffic sounds. People walking dogs. Life continuing without knowing how close death had come. Nora waited by her car. She smiled when she saw us. Not a big smile. Just a small one. The kind that says I told you this would work. She hugged me. Then Lily. Then both of us together. She said it was over. That Daniel was in custody. That the confession was recorded. That justice was coming. Justice. That word felt heavy. Important. Real. We drove to my house. The three of us. Not talking much. Just breathing. Just existing in the space after survival. My kitchen looked the same. Nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I made tea. Lily sat at my table. The table where Nora showed me files. Where Agent Huang played recordings. Where I planned war. Now it was just a table again. In a kitchen. In a house. In a life that could continue. Lily said she was moving out of her apartment. That she could not stay there. That every room had Daniel's fingerprints. His lies. His performance. She asked if she could stay with me for a while. Until she found something new. Until she felt safe again. I said yes. I said of course. I said stay as long as she needed. She smiled. Tired. Broken. But real. Finally real. Nora left as the sun set. She said she would call tomorrow. That there would be paperwork. Statements. Legal proceedings. The machinery of justice grinding forward. But tonight was ours. Mother and daughter. Alone. Safe. We ordered pizza. We sat on the couch. We watched nothing on television. Just needed the noise. The distraction. The normalcy. Lily fell asleep against my shoulder. Exhausted. Drained. But breathing. Alive. Mine. I stayed awake. Watching her sleep. Making sure she was real. That this was not a dream. That we had actually won. The night stretched long. Dark. Quiet. But not frightening anymore. Daniel was in a cell. Behind bars. Behind locked doors. Behind walls he could not charm his way through. His words were evidence. His confession was permanent. His freedom was over. And Lily was safe. Here. Breathing softly. Dreaming whatever dreams come after nightmares end. I thought about Rita. About her sister who fought too late. About Carol's niece who made connections after damage was done. We had stopped him. Not just for us. For them. For all the families still connected by his cruelty. The revenge he built would be his undoing. The families he tormented became the network that caught him. One investigation led to another. One victim's story confirmed another's. One name connected to the next. Until the pattern was undeniable. Until the proof was overwhelming. Until justice became inevitable. I thought about the crystal flute. Still broken in my cabinet. Glued but cracked. Functional but scarred. That was us now. Broken but repaired. Scarred but whole. Changed but surviving. Lily shifted against me. Mumbled something I could not hear. Settled deeper into sleep. I pulled a blanket over us both. I closed my eyes. I let myself rest. Tomorrow would bring statements. Questions. Legal procedures. The slow grinding work of prosecution. But tonight was peace. Was safety. Was survival. We had walked into fire. We had faced the monster. We had set the trap and sprung it. And we had walked out alive. Together. Victorious. The house settled around us. Old wood creaking. Familiar sounds. Home sounds. Outside, the city slept. Tomorrow would come. But not yet. Not tonight. Tonight was for breathing. For healing. For holding my daughter close. For knowing that sometimes the stage requires performance. That survival sometimes needs theater. That love sometimes fights in costume. But when the curtain falls and the audience leaves, truth remains. Real. Solid. Unbreakable. Lily was safe. I was whole. We were together. And that was enough. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. The trial took 18 months. 18 months of depositions, testimonies, evidence laid bare like bones on a table. Daniel became Miles Weaver, his real name, the one buried under decades of aliases. Under cities and corpses and carefully constructed lies. The prosecutor was a woman named Janet Chen. 50s, sharp. She wore gray suits and no jewelry. She looked like someone who had seen too much and forgotten nothing. She built the case like a cathedral. stone by stone, witness by witness, city by city. Phoenix came first. Rita Sandoval's sister testified. Her name was Maria. She was 70 now. Her voice shook but did not break. She described her sister, lonely after her husband died, vulnerable, looking for connection, for companionship, for someone to share coffee with in the mornings. Dean Cole gave her that. Gave her attention, gave her promises, gave her 6 months of believing life could be good again. Then came the stairs, the fall, the funeral, the insurance money disappearing with a man who never existed. Maria said she knew it was not an accident, knew something was wrong. But the police saw an old woman and slippery stairs and called it tragedy. She hired investigators, spent her savings, followed the trail, found other women, other cities, other names. But he was always ahead, always gone, always starting over somewhere new. Until now, until Boston, until he got comfortable, until he talked too much. Nashville came next. Carol Jensen testified herself. She was 68. She walked with a cane. She looked fragile but spoke with steel. She described Mason Kerr, how he romanced her, how he listened, how he made her feel young and interesting and worth loving, how he convinced her to consolidate accounts, to trust him with finances, to let him help manage her late husband's estate, how one morning she woke to empty accounts and an empty house, how he vanished with $400,000, how the police said it was a civil matter, how lawyers cost more than she had left. Her niece sat behind her in the courtroom, the niece who remembered his face, who saw the news from Phoenix, who made the connections. Denver brought another voice. Portland brought 2 more. Other cities, other names, other women who trusted and lost. Some testified in person, some appeared on video, some sent statements read by proxies because facing him was too much. Too hard, too dangerous even now. The courtroom filled with ghosts. With women who survived. With families who did not. Photographs covered the prosecutor's table. Rita smiling at a birthday party. Carol on her wedding day. Others. Too many others. Each photo had a name. A story. A life that intersected with Miles Weaver and ended diminished. The forensic accountant took 3 days. She traced money through shell companies, through offshore accounts, through layers of complexity designed to hide simple theft. She showed how Miles moved funds, how he laundered money, how he built new identities with stolen wealth, how he funded each new performance with the ruins of the last. The phone records expert showed patterns. Burner phones purchased and discarded. Numbers used once and abandoned. Communications designed to disappear, but digital footprints linger, even when burned, even when buried, even when the person who made them thinks they are careful. The FBI presented my recording. The full 90 minutes. Every word, every confession, every boast. The courtroom listened in silence. To Miles describing his art, his method, his revenge, his plans for me and Lily. I watched the jury while they listened. 12 faces, different ages, different backgrounds, united in slowly growing horror. Some took notes, some just stared, some looked at Miles like they were seeing something inhuman, something that wore a person's suit but was not a person underneath. Miles sat at the defense table, his lawyer beside him, his expression empty, shut down, the mask gone, the performance over. He did not look at me, did not look at Lily, did not look at any of the women whose lives he destroyed. He looked at nothing, at the table, At his hands. At the end approaching. His lawyer tried. She was court-appointed. Young. She did her job because that is what the system requires. But her heart was not in it. She argued entrapment, coercion, improper procedure, technical violations, anything to create doubt, to muddy waters, to suggest reasonable questions, but the evidence was overwhelming. The confession was clear. The pattern was undeniable. Miles Weaver was guilty. The jury knew it. The judge knew it. The courtroom knew it. The only question was the sentence. How many years? How much justice? How to measure punishment for crimes that spanned decades? The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Not long, considering the complexity, considering the scope, considering the lives at stake. They returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, conspiracy, murder, attempted murder. Too many charges to count on fingers. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. Time for impact statements. For victims to speak. For the court to hear the full weight of damage done. Those 2 weeks felt longer than the trial. Waiting for the final word. For the sentence. For the number that would define Miles Weaver's remaining life. The courtroom was packed for sentencing. Every seat filled. People standing in back. Families who had waited years for this moment. Maria spoke first. She said her sister died afraid. Died alone. Died thinking love had betrayed her. That no amount of years would bring Rita back. But justice mattered anyway. Carol spoke second. She said losing money was survivable. But losing trust was not. That Miles Weaver stole her ability to believe in kindness. In connection. In human decency. Others spoke. 10 victims. 10 families. 10 statements about damage that could not be quantified. Harm that could not be undone. Then Lily spoke. I did not know she was going to. She had not told me. She just stood when the judge called for final statements. She said she was lucky. That she survived where others did not. That she had a mother who fought when fighting seemed impossible. She said Miles Weaver taught her something valuable. That evil wears familiar faces. That monsters do not announce themselves. That vigilance is not paranoia when predators are real. She said she hoped he spent every day of his remaining life remembering this moment. Remembering he lost. Remembering that sometimes the prey fights back. She sat down. I reached for her hand. She squeezed back. Hard. The judge spoke last. Her name was Sarah Brennan. 65. She looked like someone who had presided over too many tragedies. Who was tired but not broken. Who still believed in the possibility of justice. She said this was one of the most disturbing cases of her career. That Miles Weaver represented calculated evil. Premeditated cruelty. Systematic predation spanning decades. She said the law allowed for mercy. For rehabilitation. For hope of redemption. But some crimes were too vast. Some harm too deep. Some people too dangerous to ever release. She sentenced him to life without possibility of parole. Multiple consecutive life sentences. One for each proven murder. One for each attempted murder. Plus additional years for fraud. For conspiracy. For everything else. The numbers added up to centuries. To time that exceeded any human lifespan. To permanence. Miles Weaver would die in prison. Would never walk free. Would never hurt anyone again. The courtroom exhaled. A collective breath. Relief and grief and something that felt like closure. Guards led Miles away. He did not look back. Did not speak. Did not give us anything. Just walked out. Into custody. Into a cell. into the rest of his life measured in concrete and bars and locked doors. Outside the courthouse, families gathered. Strangers united by shared trauma. By survival. By having faced the same monster and lived to testify. We exchanged contact information. Promised to stay connected. Formed a network born of pain but sustained by resilience. Maria hugged me. She said Rita would be proud. That I finished what she started. That justice was late but not absent. Carol hugged Lily. She said young women needed to see this. Needed to know that fighting back was possible. That survival was not passive. That victims could become witnesses, could become warriors. We drove home in silence. Lily and I, exhausted, drained, but lighter somehow, like something heavy had been lifted. Like we could breathe fully for the first time in 18 months. Life resumed slowly, carefully, like learning to walk after injury. Lily found a new apartment. Smaller than before. Top floor. Good locks. She checked them twice every night. I knew because she told me. Because we talked about fear now. About vigilance. About the price of survival. She started dating again. Eventually. Carefully. She brought people home to meet me. Asked my opinion. Listened when I noticed things. Not because she needed permission. Because she trusted my instincts. Because we had earned each other's wisdom. She met someone eventually. Someone solid. Someone whose past extended beyond 5 years. Someone whose eyes held kindness without calculation. His name was Marcus. He was a teacher. He had a daughter from a previous marriage. He introduced us on the 3rd date. Not to impress me, just because honesty mattered to him. I liked him, but I watched him anyway. Checked his background. Verified his stories. Not because I did not trust him. Because trust required evidence now. Because safety required vigilance. Marcus understood. He said his ex-wife did the same thing. That smart people verify. That healthy love welcomes questions. That transparency is proof of nothing to hide. Lily and I developed rituals. Sunday dinners at my house. She cooked. I prepared sides. We talked about everything. About work. About life. About healing. We laughed again. Not the same as before. Different. Deeper. The kind of laughter that acknowledges darkness and chooses light anyway. I returned to volunteering. At a women's shelter. Teaching financial literacy. Helping women recognize red flags. Sharing what I learned. Turning pain into purpose. The women listened. Some skeptical. Some afraid. Some ready to hear. I told them about Daniel. About David. About Miles. About all the names worn by one monster. I told them about isolation tactics. About love bombing. About rushed timelines. About financial control disguised as care. I told them that healthy love does not isolate. Does not rush. Does not hide. That real partnership invites scrutiny. Welcomes questions. Survives verification. Some took notes. Some cried. Some left and came back. Some never came back but sent friends instead. I kept the crystal flute on my shelf. Glued but cracked. A reminder that broken things can be repaired. That scars prove survival. That fractures let light through. Lily brought Marcus to Sunday dinner. 6 months after they met. 9 months after the trial ended. Time measured in healing. We ate pasta. We shared wine. We told stories. We laughed at small things. And it felt normal. Ordinary. Safe. The kind of safe that is earned. That is built. That requires vigilance but allows joy. After dinner, Lily helped me wash dishes. Marcus sat in the living room. Reading. Comfortable. Not performing. She asked if I trusted him. I said I was learning to. That trust was a process now. Not a leap. Not faith. Not blind belief. But a decision made daily. With eyes open. With evidence gathered. With vigilance maintained. She said that sounded exhausting. I said it was. But so was dying. And between the two, vigilance was preferable. She laughed. Then hugged me. Then told me she loved my suspicious heart. That it saved us both. That she would rather be cautious than careless. Rather alert than ambushed. We finished the dishes. We rejoined Marcus. We spent the evening in ordinary conversation. About weather. About work. About nothing important. And it was perfect. Because ordinary was the prize. The reward. The life we fought to keep. Outside, Boston continued. Cars passed. People walked. Life moved forward. As it always does. With or without us. But we were here. Present. Participating. Living with both joy and vigilance. With love and caution. With hope and evidence. We had walked through fire. Had faced the monster. Had survived the trial. Had watched justice arrive late but arrive nonetheless. And we had learned that safety is not given. It is built. That trust is not blind. It is earned. That love is not enough. It requires verification. That sometimes survival requires theater. Requires performance. Requires becoming someone you are not to catch someone who never was. But when the stage is dark and the audience is gone, truth remains. Solid. Real. Worth fighting for. We had won. Not perfectly. Not without cost. But completely. Finally. Definitively. And that was enough. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. People call me brave. I am not. I was just stubborn. Stubborn and angry and lucky enough to find the right help. Bravery suggests choice made from strength. I chose from desperation. From fear. From refusing to lose my daughter the way I lost my savings. My dignity. My belief that the world was fundamentally safe. The world is not safe. It never was. I just had not learned that yet. Now I know better. Now I teach what I learned. Not in classrooms. Not from textbooks. From survival. From scars. From mornings I woke up wondering if fighting was worth it. It was. Every time. Every doubt. Every exhausted moment. Worth it. I keep the crystal flute on my kitchen shelf. Right at eye level. Where I see it every day. Where I cannot forget. The crack runs through it like a river. Crooked. Permanent. Visible. The glue holds but the break shows. Light catches on the seam. Makes it obvious. Makes it beautiful in a broken way. It does not hold liquid anymore. The crack leaks. Seeps. Fails its original purpose. But it holds something better now. It holds a lesson. It holds proof. It holds the truth that broken things can still be useful. Still be kept. Still be loved. I glued it back together 3 years ago. Right after the trial ended. Right after Miles Weaver disappeared into prison. Right after life became something other than fighting. I could have thrown it away. Could have replaced it. Could have pretended it never broke. Never fell. Never marked the moment I recognized a monster in my daughter's living room. But that would be forgetting. And forgetting is dangerous. Forgetting is how people get hurt twice. So I keep it. I look at it. I remember. The women I teach at the shelter ask about it sometimes. They notice it. The prominent placement. The obvious damage. The careful repair. I tell them it is a reminder. That when something breaks, you can fix it. that the scar makes it wiser, that weakness and wisdom can occupy the same space. Some understand immediately. Some need time. Some never come back to class. But some do. Some return. Some bring friends. Some ask more questions. I answer what I can. I share what I learned. I tell them the truth no one told me. That love should not isolate you. Should not cut you off from family. From friends. From people who know your history. From anyone who might notice. Might question. Might warn. Healthy love introduces you to more people. Not fewer. Expands your world. Does not shrink it. Does not build walls. Does not create distance between you and everyone who cares. If someone wants you alone, ask why. Ask it out loud. Ask it with witnesses. Ask it before signing anything. Before combining anything. Before trusting anything. I tell them that love should not rush. Should not push. Should not demand immediate commitment. Immediate access. Immediate trust. Real love waits. Survives questions. Welcomes verification. Does not panic when you check references. When you search online. When you ask to meet family. When you want time. If someone pushes for speed, ask why. Ask what they are racing toward. Ask what they are running from. Ask before the wedding. Before the joint account. Before the point of no return. I tell them that love should not hide. Should not avoid your people. Should not refuse to meet your mother. Your sister. Your best friend. Your anyone who might look closely. Healthy love invites scrutiny. Wants to be known. Wants to meet the people who matter to you. Does not fear questions. Does not avoid witnesses. Does not keep everything private. If someone hides, ask why. Ask what they fear. Ask what scrutiny might reveal. Ask while you still can. While doors are still unlocked. While escape is still possible. These are simple things. Obvious things. Things everyone should know. But knowledge is different than wisdom. Facts are different than instinct. Understanding is different than survival. I knew these things before David Cole. Before Daniel Cross. Before Miles Weaver. I taught them to teenagers in guidance sessions. I believed them intellectually. But I did not live them. Did not internalize them. Did not let them guide my choices when loneliness spoke louder than sense. Now I live them. Now they are bone deep. Now they are automatic. Not paranoia. Not cynicism. Not refusing to trust anyone ever again. Just wisdom. Hard-earned. Scar tissue wisdom. The kind that costs something to learn. That changes you. That makes you both harder and softer simultaneously. Harder in boundaries. Softer in empathy. Harder in standards. Softer in understanding why people ignore red flags. Why they want to believe. Why they choose hope over caution. Because I did that. I was that. I am not better than the women I teach. Just further along the same path. Just carrying scars they are still earning. Lily understands this now. She did not at first. At first she wanted me softer. Wanted me to trust Marcus faster. To approve without verifying. To celebrate without investigating. But I could not. Cannot. Will not. Not after what we survived. Not after what we learned. Not after walking into Daniel's apartment wired and terrified and determined. So I verify. I check. I ask questions. I meet family. I search backgrounds. I trust slowly. Carefully. With evidence gathered and evaluated and confirmed. And Marcus appreciates it. Says it shows I care. That I take his relationship with my daughter seriously. That I am not performing approval to be liked. He is right. I do not perform anymore. Do not smile to keep peace. Do not nod to avoid confrontation. Do not pretend things are fine when they are not. That performance almost cost me everything. Cost Lily everything. Cost other women their lives. Their savings. Their ability to trust ever again. So I stopped performing. Started speaking. Started trusting my instincts even when they make people uncomfortable. Even when they sound harsh. Even when they seem like too much. Because too much vigilance is survivable. Too little is not. Too much caution is uncomfortable. Too little is deadly. I would rather be called paranoid than attend my daughter's funeral. Rather be called difficult than watch her marry a monster. Rather be called unreasonable than reasonable and bereaved. The women at the shelter understand this. They have lived it. They know the cost of being reasonable. Of giving chances. Of ignoring instinct because it seems unkind. They know that kindness to predators is cruelty to yourself. That benefit of doubt is a luxury survivors cannot afford. That sometimes the only way to stay safe is to seem suspicious. So we practice together. Practice saying no. Practice asking questions. Practice leaving when something feels wrong even if we cannot articulate why. We practice trusting our discomfort. Our hesitation. Our instinct that something is off even when everything looks fine. Especially when everything looks fine. Because predators are good at fine. At normal. At passing casual inspection. That is how they hunt. How they survive. How they move from city to city and victim to victim. They are not monsters in the obvious sense. Not visibly damaged. Not clearly dangerous. They are charming. Attentive. Seemingly perfect. Until they are not. Until the mask slips. Until the trap closes. And by then it is often too late. Too late to leave. Too late to fight. Too late to do anything but survive as best you can. Unless you learn to see earlier. To notice sooner. To trust yourself before the evidence is overwhelming. Before the danger is undeniable. Before survival becomes the only option. I teach women to trust themselves. To honor their hesitation. To value their discomfort. To know that feeling unsafe is information. Not weakness. Not paranoia. Not something to overcome. Safety is not given. It is built. It is maintained. It is defended. It requires vigilance. Requires boundaries. Requires the willingness to seem difficult. To seem demanding. To seem like too much. Because too much is survivable. Not enough is not. Too much gets you called names. Not enough gets you killed. I learned this late. At 57. After losing money and dignity and belief that I could trust my own judgment. After being humiliated by a man who saw my loneliness as opportunity. But I learned it. And learning late is better than never learning. Better than dying without knowing. Better than becoming another name in Norris files. Now I teach it. Pass it forward. Turn pain into purpose. Turn survival into service. Turn the worst thing that happened to me into something that might prevent the worst thing from happening to someone else. The crystal flute reminds me why. Why I teach. Why I verify. Why I refuse to pretend everything is fine when fine is a performance. It sits on my shelf. Broken but mended. Damaged but displayed. Useless for its original purpose but perfect for its current one. It holds a story. Holds a warning. Holds the truth that recognition has a cost. That survival has a scar. That wisdom is what you call pain after enough time passes. Lily comes for dinner every Sunday. She brings Marcus sometimes. Sometimes comes alone. We cook together. We talk. We laugh. We live. She checks her locks twice. I notice. She verifies Marcus's stories. I approve. She trusts slowly. I breathe easier. We are both changed. Both scarred. Both wiser than we wanted to be. But alive. Together. Surviving not just danger but the aftermath. The recovery. The long slow work of living after trauma. We do not talk about Daniel often. About Miles. About the trial. About the 18 months we spent building a case and a trap and a future without him in it. But we do not need to talk about it. It is there. In the way we verify. In the way we question. In the way we trust slowly and love carefully and refuse to pretend red flags are roses. It is there in the crystal flute. In the crack that catches light. In the repair that shows the break. In the beauty that exists because of damage, not despite it. Some things break and become useless. Some things break and become sharper. Some things break and become teachers. Reminders. Proof that broken is not the same as finished. I am broken. So is Lily. So are the women I teach. So is everyone who survives something that should have destroyed them. But broken is just a state. Not an ending. Not a verdict. Not a permanent condition. Broken things can be glued. Can be functional. Can be beautiful in new ways. They just cannot be what they were before. Cannot hold what they once held. Cannot serve their original purpose without leaking. Without showing the seam. Without revealing the repair. But maybe that is better. Maybe the leak is wisdom. Maybe the seam is strength. Maybe the repair is the whole point. I look at the crystal flute every morning. While making coffee. While starting my day. While preparing to teach or verify or question or live. And it reminds me that I broke but did not shatter. That I repaired but did not hide. That I survived but did not forget. That the crack is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is evidence. It is the price of wisdom and the proof of survival. That love can be verified. That trust can be earned. That safety can be built. That sometimes the best thing you can do is stand beside someone and help them see what you learned to see. That broken things can still be useful. Can still be beautiful. Can still teach. Can still save lives. If you keep them. If you display them. If you let the light catch the crack and make it visible. If you tell the truth about how it broke. And how you glued it back together. And what it taught you about fractures and repair and the long difficult work of living after damage. The crystal flute sits on my shelf. Broken. Mended. Wise. Teaching anyone who looks closely enough to see. That survival is possible. That repair is real. That broken things can still shine. If you look at them right. If you let the light through. If you understand that scars are not shame. They are proof. Of survival. Of resistance. Of refusing to let damage define you. Of becoming something other than what broke you. They are proof you fought. And lived. And learned. And decided to help others do the same. The crystal flute holds nothing but air now. But air is enough. Air is breath. Air is life. Air is the space between breaking and healing. Between damage and wisdom. Between falling and standing back up. Between victim and survivor. Between silence and story. I tell my story. To women who need to hear it. Who need to know surviving is possible. That fighting back works. That verification is not paranoia. That vigilance is not weakness. That love should open doors. Not lock them. Should introduce you to yourself. Your better self. Your stronger self. Not isolate you from everyone who knows your name. That if you hear the smile before you see it, check the locks anyway. Trust your instincts. Ask questions. Verify answers. Wait. And invite people to stand beside you. People who will help you see. Who will tell you truth. Who will witness your life and say yes or no or wait or run. Because no one survives alone. No one fights monsters without help. No one becomes wise without teachers. Even if those teachers are broken things on shelves. Even if those teachers are old women with cracked voices and hard-earned lessons. Even if those teachers are daughters who learned to trust slowly and love carefully and refuse to let charm override caution. We teach each other. We stand beside each other. We witness each other. We verify. We question. We trust slowly. We survive together. And sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is everything. Sometimes that is the only thing that matters. That we are here, still breathing, still teaching, still holding our broken things up to the light, still showing the cracks, still telling the truth, still refusing to let damage have the final word. We are here, scarred but whole, broken but mended, changed but surviving, and that is enough, more than enough, everything.